current malaise has been the allegation that the Commons has had undue influence over the workings of the Senate. When you look back historically, has that often been the case? Has it been unusual in the last 15 years, or how do you see that?
Being several thousand kilometers away from it now, I'm not exactly sure in terms of how much you read about that in the press. I saw a major transformation of the Senate, though, while I was there. When I first started with the Senate was, to use that broad expression, an old boys club, even though there were women there. It was very much, the Speaker didn't have much influence or authority. In the House of Commons, if a member of the House of Commons wants to speak, they address the Speaker and they speak through the Speaker, and the Speaker recognizes who will speak. In the Senate, it was more, well, the Senate Speaker is an appointment by the Prime Minister, not a choice by the Senate, and that reduces the power of the Senate, of the Speaker. But then secondly, there is that whole issue of, are they really going to follow the rules? When I first started in the Senate, there was no adjournment time, no specific time for adjournment. At the end of the day, it was just all, well, honorable senators, perhaps it's time now for us to quit and go and have a bit of scotch or something like that. And they would adjourn. And the changeover came with GST. And that was when I really lost my hair. That was a horrendous 5 weeks, I think it was. It seemed like 5 years. But there was a whole controversy within the Senate over the passage of GST. And the old gentleman's club ended. And it became far more partisan between the parties than it had been before. So I really saw that change. What's happening now, I'm only reading from afar, so I can't really comment on if it's any better or worse. Yeah.
One more question.
One more, okay.
What's the strongest argument for the Senate?
I think there are a couple of, and that's a good question, I think there are a couple of arguments that I think are fairly strong. First off, and I mentioned it before, in abolishing the Senate, there would be certain elements within Canada that have fewer people and would feel that if the House of Commons was there only on its own with representation by population, it would be dominated by Ontario, and there would be no counterbalance to that. And regional representation would be then kind of an adjunct of that, Quebec making the argument of language and culture. But I think the West, some in the West would argue, perhaps less now with the scandals, but that we need to have a regional counterbalance to Ontario, and that could come in an upper chamber. Those would be, I think, two. There could be other arguments that I'm just not thinking of at the moment, but those would be two in terms of that counterbalance to regional representation by population in the House of Commons. Okay.
Thank you very much. I have the easiest task tonight, and that is to say thank you. I'm Thomas Bledel. I'm the Associate Dean, Research and Graduate Studies in the Faculty of Arts. And I would like to thank you, the Stapleford family, for creating and for supporting this extraordinary lecture series. I would like to thank you for coming here tonight and showing an interest in one of sort of the vital institutions of democracy. And I think we are fortunate that we are in a place where we can discuss and resolve these kinds of questions of how we make political decisions in settings like these. Above all, I would like to thank Dr. Barnhart. It's rare that we have the pleasure and the honor to listen to somebody who has sort of the intimate knowledge of somebody who has been involved over decades in these questions, but who is also the distance that a scholar can bring to inquiries of that nature. So I would like to thank you for a triple E lecture. erudite, engaging, and entertaining. Thank you very much.